Well, good evening, Pastor George. It is so nice to have you on the podcast this evening. Um, I thought we would start. Why don't we start by tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're at, and and how you got started in ministry.
Hello, Sean. It's first of all is a pleasure and honor to talk with you and share with you about our ministry here. And thank you for letting me to talk about it. So in 1997, short, excuse me, I became a missionary, and then I understood the importance of planting churches, and that was in my heart from that time. And I started to plant churches in north of Bucharest, and then with my senior pastor, we opened a new one in the middle of Bucharest. And then 16 years ago, I started this ministry, what we have in Pantelimon, which is in the east side of Bucharest. Um, and now we have a nice church. I remember that you visited us some times ago, and we are open to start or plant another church in southeast of Bucharest, and actually is the place where I live now. And this is the I would say the things what make us happy to plant new churches.
Well, Pastor George, I have to brag on you for a couple of seconds here in front of our audience today. Um, as you just mentioned, I did have a chance. Jen and I had a chance to come and visit, and Taya, our daughter, as well, come and visit your church and work with you when we were down in Brodia and your son. And one of the things that uh, stuck out to me, there were a lot of things that stuck out to me about you, but your humility and your passion for people. I those things when I think about you, those are the things that come to the top of my mind: is your humility, your passion for people, and of course your contagious smile, and really your love of Jesus. And so I'm grateful that I had the couple of days and to do the health fair and stuff there at your church. And so um, obviously it's been a couple of years because of COVID, and now we have this situation happening next door to you guys in Ukraine, and so really it's one of the things I wanted to get your perspective on, and why it's such an honor to have you on the podcast this week is because you're bringing a perspective of a neighbor of Ukraine. I've talked to several people from Ukraine, um, but to be able to hear from someone who is kind of watching from, I don't want to say the outside, because I know that so much of Eastern Europe is a family, and the countries there are, have gone through a lot through history. Um, but tell me a little bit about your perspective, and when I say your, I mean your personal and the Romanian perspective, as this conflict was leading up before the 24th of February, the weeks leading up to this. What were you guys thinking? I mean, I'm sure you saw it on your news and on the internet. And did you think anything was going to happen?
Sean, when start the war in Ukraine, we thought that will not be finished quickly. I shared with you before about the experience what we had during the Second World War with Russian troops in Romania when they get to, or how to say, goes to Germany, and we stopped for a while in our country. In that time, we were the same part, or how to say, we fight against Nazi people, against Germany. But even that, they had a very bad reputation for what they did in Romania. A lot of bad things. I don't want to make a list with them, but I try to imagine as enemy what's happened in Ukraine, what suffering had the people there, the ladies, the girls, the women raped, and so many bad things. Uh, we are here in Romania, let's say the last country in NATO, not so far from Russia border, and we understood that we are somehow protected by the NATO, but we understood in the same time that we can be a home for a while for Ukrainians, and I was so amazed. Even didn't make some publicity for helping Ukrainian. All the country was so open, like at a single sound. All the houses open to receive refugees. You can imagine nobody know who are the refugees, who where they come and what they are doing, but so many people opened their houses, and the Ukrainian spent 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, depend what they decide to do. Some of them want to go to United States. Other people stop in Europe, somewhere Germany or England or different countries, France. But was very interesting that having them in our homes, um, we were very how to say touched in our hearts. Uh, I think that experience make us more good people. They changed our hearts somehow, because now I understand the
Mm,
suffering, the gravity of the things in Ukraine. They shared with us so many stories, and all
right.
the stories were covered with tears, or how to say, yeah,
Mm,
pain in their hearts. Um, of course, we feel a little bit afraid, because if the war will continue, hopes not, and the Russian troops arrived near the border. If something happened, the war will not continue in Russia or in Europe, maybe in Poland and Romania, and we
mm,
don't have any, how to say, we don't have a good position here. But we trust in the
right.
Lord.
Right.
I know that nothing is aleatory. It's not how to say. It's God is in control. This is all what I know. I don't know when the war will finish, but we continue to do
Right.
what we love to do, to help people. In our church, we start in a single day. We received the information that the Ukrainian come to Romania, and in the same day we start to make a facility or a place to accommodate them. And I thought that they'll come in 1 or 2 or 3 days, but I received a phone call that they are 200 kilometers from our church, waiting
Mm,
to yeah, with a desire to spend the night somewhere, far from the war, from the bombs. And with all the church goes to the church and start to put the beds and the mattresses, and everything was necessary for them. We changed the place for the things, and now and we prepared about 22 beds for the people to come.
wow.
Yeah.
Uh, Pastor George, one of the things that has impressed me so much about the stories I've heard and the people I've talked to. It's the fact that the evangelical church coming together to um, to help, and I really believe that that's really what the church is all about, right? I mean, we're about leading people to the saving power of Christ, but oftentimes, I used to work for a nonprofit where the leader would say, it's really hard to share the gospel when someone has an empty stomach or is in pain or distress of some sort. um, and so I think seeing the evangelical church come together and really help meet the needs, the tangible needs
Yes.
of so many guests, so many refugees, really does open the door for folks to hear the gospel message and maybe take a look at the church in a way that they've never seen it before. Maybe they've always seen it as a religious institution or a series of laws and rules, but to get to see it for a body of people who want to do good, who want to help, who want to serve. I am so inspired by the churches there in Romania and Moldova and Poland and really several others. I know you work with a network of churches across Eastern Europe, and that's something that I think here in the United States we should take note of. If I'm being really honest with you, we kind of have our mega churches and our little churches, and it's almost like there's a little bit of a competition between them sometimes. And if something I was thinking about this the other day, if something like what happened in Ukraine were to happen here, it would demand that all of us come together to help. And it would require us to come together and lock arm to arm and say, how can we serve? How can we help? So I commend you guys for everything that you're doing. Um, Tell me a little bit about the Romanian church as a whole. I mean, are you seeing? We talked about it a little bit, but are you seeing the evangelical churches, even churches that you may not necessarily have a relationship with? Are you seeing people step up, if you will, to help?
Yes. Actually, what can I say? It's we Christians are very special, or how to say, a different kind of people. Let me explain that. We can love people without knowing them. We can make we it's easy for us to do good things for the people who don't know, because that we learned from the Lord to do that, and
Right.
was easy to love them and to help them, and put our money or resources for helping them. I want to say that I want to thank you so much to serving him for the support for our church. This is wonderful for us, wonderful help, because yeah, the bills are there, and was winter time, and this is a huge help for us, and thank you so much. So, regard to the churches, so of course, when we heard that, we start to communicate with Baptist Union from Ukraine, the churches there, all the churches from Romania communicate with the evangelical churches, even Pentecostal Baptists or Brethren Church. They contact the churches from Ukraine and try to help Christians, evangelical Christians, to have a place, to give them a place to stay. But of course, as is written in the Bible, to do good things, or let me see, do good things for all the people, but mostly for brothers and sisters. So
Right.
we opened our hearts for everybody, everybody, and was wonderful to receive them and to show them our love, or God's love. And of course, they were touched by the war, and was the perfect time to show them God's love in this situation that they pass. Yes.
You know, it's amazing because I've heard some stories. I was talking, Pastor Joshua down in Berea,
Yes.
I've been, we've been in heavy communication with him as well, and hearing so many stories of really salvation of people who weren't followers, or maybe they were just kind of, they kind of, maybe I believe, maybe I don't. Um, and they come in and they experience the love of the church, and really the love of God manifested through his people in the church. We have seen incredible and heard incredible stories of people who've really, come to Christ. One young lady left Berea on her way to another location, and before she even made it to this next location, she said, "You know what? I feel like I need to get baptized. I need to be able to share this testimony of what God is doing in my life." And with the church, Pastor Joshua's team was able to minister to her, and then by the time she got to her next destination, they baptized her. And what an amazing
Yeah.
story of Christ's love, and really just God being God. I think sometimes we remember, we forget that ultimately God wins. God's in control here, and so what a beautiful story of just His grace, His saving power, even in the times of turmoil and war. So, um, are there any stories that you've heard, or maybe you've seen firsthand, that really kind of stuck with you? Maybe it's someone you came across, that they're kind of in your heart, in your mind.
Uh, yes, it is something who touched my heart. First of all, I want to let you know that at the end of May, we will have baptism in the church. So, right before to talk with you, I spent a lot of time with the people who will be baptized, and I talked with them. And it's possible one of the Nigerians to be baptized. We will see, because
Oh
not all
wow!
of them are evangelicals. But um, when it's not war and when everything going well, the Christianity become theory, and the people just feel good and say it's fine to be Christian. But when the war knocked to the door, or the war is in your country and you are afraid to not be killed by the guns, then try to take in serious the situation. I am or not a Christian. I'm ready to die for my faith, or it's just a nice story about somebody. When they
Right.
arrived in Romania, we had some Christians, some evangelical Christians, but like in Romania, 90% of the people are Christians. But in Ukraine, the same. But they don't know too much about Christianity. They are just by name, because
Mm.
they were born in a Christian country. They think that they are Christians.
Right.
So when they arrived in the country in Romania, many of them cried and shared their stories. And I remember the a family with, if I remember right, with 6 children
Wow.
start to come to Romania, in a car, and then the car was broke on the road and took a bus, all the family. And when they arrived to the border, the oldest son, because he was I think 19 years old, was stopped by the Ukrainian authorities and said, "No, you cannot go with your family. You must return back to fight, to be a soldier." Even that he didn't have any experience with the guns or yeah, and all the rest of the family arrived in our church, and all of them were, broke in their hearts. The mother didn't stop to cry, and the rest of the family too. I helped them to go to Germany. I put them in a bus, and they. I was amazed to see that some companies, transport companies, or I don't know is the how is the term. Um, they give free, how to say, transportation for Germany or for France. And I talked with somebody, and they helped them to go to Germany. Then
Wow.
another story: three cars came from Ukraine with 18 peoples inside in the cars. And when they arrived to the border, they were three families, I think, three families and some relatives. Because one of the family didn't have more than three children, the husband or the father of the children was obligated to stay and to go back to fight. So they arrived, 17 people in two cars in our
Wow.
church. I helped them to go in Germany too because they understood that it's a good place for them, and I receive pictures and stories with what they are doing now. Of course, it's very sad to broke the families, and to let somebody to go back and somebody go, in another country. But I shared with them, with all of them actually. I invite them to stay to be with us in the church at the program, and to share their stories and lives. And for many of them, we prepared the Bible in Russian. I was amazed, Sean, that in Ukrainian all the people speak Russian. All the people speak
Hmm.
Russian. Some of them didn't know Ukrainian, just Russian. I thought that it's some of them speak Russian, but no, they're all the people speak Russian. So hard to see the Russian troops come in a country where all the people speak your language. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But I understood that it's a law now in Ukraine that in schools, in universities, all the people must to talk in Ukrainian and have hard
Hmm.
degrees, or exams for at the end of the school to be sure that the people speak Ukrainian or to know to speak Ukrainian. And we provide Bibles in Russian to be sure that all the people can understand the God's word. And yeah, we that was the, let's say, the gift for them when they left our church, and of course hopes to meet them in heaven. I will look to see where
Yes.
they are.
And they'll be there. I'm sure they'll be there.
We
I
will
hope they'll
go
be there
together.
with
We will
us.
go together.
We'll all celebrate together. I'll
Yeah.
come over. I'll come over to the Romanian side of heaven, and we'll all just kind of you'll have a big party or something. So, well, Pastor, I know it's late there in Romania, but I do want to ask this question. Um, obviously, as we talked about earlier, and as I've heard from other pastors and folks, having so many refugees come across the border, it's certainly put a bit of a strain, if you will. And I know you guys, I know your heart is do whatever, right? But it does take, it takes things to make everything happen. And so, what would you tell uh, uh, people here, maybe even pastors here? I know that we have a lot of large churches who are involved in giving towards the efforts. But there's also a lot of smaller churches who may not know how to get involved. They may not understand that, they may think, well, I can't go give we're a small church. I can't go give a $10,000 check. We don't have that. That's 2 weeks salary and keeping the lights on at our church for that. But I can give 500 or something like that. What would you tell people that your greatest need is as a pastor, personally and from Romania, that you're seeing?
Sean, when I became pastor, when I started this church in Pantelimon, I said that I'll never discuss my salary. If they want to give me something, I will be very happy. And even now, I have the minimum salary, what we have in the country. But, and I will not talk about me now. I'm talking about the church and the people who stay in our church. We have 22 places, and all of them are busy now. So the people from Ukraine, actually, I want to tell you that all of them are from Nigeria. They are students and they study medicine. They are very educated guys and very clean. They very special young people. And so we love them. We want to help them, but we want to give them a nice place, but in the same time, the heating system continue to, to spend money, let's say, and the other, electricity and all that kind of things, the bills. Of course, we are a small church, and we cannot cover all the expenses. If somebody want to help us, that's amazing. That's wonderful. Of course, maybe the people don't know who we are and what we are doing. I invite them to come in Romania to visit us, and we will be very happy to having them here. At the same time, we want to enlarge the place for refugees to stay. I received yesterday another phone call and said are 7 people who want to come. One of the person is in the wheelchair and they need to stay somewhere. Can you imagine what is in my heart? I don't have any possibility to let them to stay because I don't have a place. And as I said, we continue to work in the camp. We start children camp for children with special needs, but we want to finish for the first period of time till the war will stop to finish and put this place to be used for refugees. Of course, that will be great if somebody can help us. I can send pictures with the place, with what we are doing there. But what can I say? I cannot ask to somebody to do something. But if God lead them to do this, that will be great. And I thank you for the opportunity to share this.
Well, absolutely. And I just want to encourage anyone who is watching this podcast to seriously consider, whether it's with Pastor George or perhaps you're plugged into another ministry that's helping. I've seen 3 things. Number one, that all of the stories that you're seeing on this podcast it's real. These are real people who have been displaced, who were living perfectly normal lives just a few months ago. Right. And now they've, in some cases, have left with a backpack on their back. And that's their new life. And they're hoping to maybe go back, but they're not sure. There's still so much uncertainty. Number 2 is that, as Pastor George just said, there's a cost to housing and preparing for guests. I know when we have guests to our home, you want to prepare a nice meal. You want to take care of them. You want them to feel welcome. And every church that I've talked with in Poland and Romania and Moldova have the same mentality. And so I think it's important for us here in the United States to realize that, number one, every little bit helps, and number two, that these are real expenses that these pastors are giving up other things. I know, Pastor George, as you just mentioned your camp, I know that's been something that's been on your heart for years, and God knew that there would be a potential slight pivot here where it would house refugees for a little bit of time. And so, I could see your passion and your heart for wanting to get that finished so that when you get those phone calls, it's absolutely, we can certainly take that family, or we can take those families, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then I think finally there's just, the rebuilding efforts, sooner or later, this will come to an end. And just as we've had it's kind of like the ocean, as we've had a surge going out of Ukraine, there's going to be a surge of people coming back, and they're going to have to begin rebuilding their lives. And so I would encourage you, just as Pastor George was just talking there, if you're watching this podcast, consider making a gift, making a donation, regardless of the size, and help any way you can. And I know through serving him, you can make a donation through there, and we can get that to Pastor George. He may have some ways. And Pastor, what I'll do is I will see if we can get a link up. I don't know if you have a page where people can donate directly to you. But if you do, we'll get that link put up on our website so people can go and just click that and make a donation digitally, and that'll go to you. But I just want to say, thank you so much. Thank you to you, your wife, your family. I know that you guys are going a million miles an hour. You are taking on responsibilities that you probably never imagined you'd have to take on a few months ago. And you've gone from not just being a pastor and a shepherd, but now a caretaker, and really a spiritual leader to people that you don't know. It's one thing to minister to people in your church that you see week in and week out.
Yes.
But it's a whole nother thing when you have people who you've never met before, and you don't know their spiritual condition. You don't know what they're struggling with. You don't know where they just came from. And suddenly it's you and them, and I can imagine that takes its toll. Not when I say toll, not a bad toll, but it certainly takes energy, and you have to stay prayed up in order to be able to share with those folks and say the right things. So, Pastor George, thank you so much for everything you're doing. From the first time we met to today, it's always the same. It's always that humility, that love for people, and just that desire to serve and allow God to be God through you, regardless of how that is, whether it's tangibly doing something or spiritually doing something. So I just want to say thank you very much. In closing, is there anything else you would like to say, or you said it all?
Are a lot of things to say, but what can I say now at the end of the meeting? It's my honor, my privilege, my my joy, and my duty to do what I'm doing to do. I know that God put us here with a special reason, and we are happy to be in the plan of the Lord. And it's even it's not easy. It's a huge joy to serve the people, to see their lives. I remember another story that 3 families had a very young girl, like 4 years old or 5 or something like that. When they came, she cried. She was scared. She uh, didn't want to be touched or talk with somebody. At the end, after, I don't remember, 1 week or something like that, she decided, and she was so sad to leave the church, to leave the place. She said, "No, I want to stay here." And she started to cry. And, this kind of things give me the power to continue to serve the people, because I know that they were protected all that time, fitted. Can you imagine this 20 people, 22 to having 3 meals daily, and uh, more than this, the girls have needs, different needs for the girls and the boys too. And it's not easy, because we want to give them the best we can. And so I want to thank you so much for the podcast, for the discussion, for the thoughts, and I want to thank you, the people who have in their hearts the desire to help us. Of course, we have a page for the church, and they can receive the information from there, and I can give it to you, of course, to share with them. And of course, we are ready to communicate later and to tell them what we are doing, what the stories, what we have, and the pictures, what we can share with them. And we are open. We are open. And Sean, we love you so much, and we appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you, Pastor George. We appreciate you too. Have a great night, and I look forward to hearing all of the amazing things God is doing through you and with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor George.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sean here. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a like, a follow, and a share. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, consider giving it 5 stars. I look forward to sharing the next story with you real soon.